Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Niche Nation podcast, where we dive into the uncut, real, rooted, deep conversations about what it is in our truth, our medicine, and our stories. Today, we bring you Debbie. Debbie is here to bring us so much more on what it is to be a mom, but also to know how to hold space authentically on journeys of grief, loss, and also inspiring and connection. How do we become a leader through that grief and understanding that this is more to embody and bring our true essence back to who we are? So, Debbie, welcome, honey.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheanise. I'm so excited about our time together today.
Yeah, when we had our first little initial chit chat, um, wow, is just like so precious on such a very hard topic. So we will be discussing loss, suicide, and a journey
Mhm.
with loved ones, and just really understanding to see you here is
Yeah,
an honor
yeah,
because
thank
that
thank you.
is a tough journey just to try and mesh it into words, right? So
Yeah.
thank you for being an advocate for this story.
Oh, you're very welcome. But yeah, it's a huge message for me. It's been 16 years, and
Wow.
so it's a 16-year-long journey, and I just wanna share that it's possible for anyone and everyone to be able to work through their grief, and
Hmm.
it's not that it will ever go away, you just experience life differently.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. I already got goosebumps. People, we're 2 minutes into this episode. So, Debbie, can you take it away? What did the journey and your story really start with? And love to hear from you.
Yeah, you bet. So, my story actually began, I guess, in 2008. So, um, I've grown up with a family of 6 people, born and raised Catholic, didn't understand the ritual thing, really decided, when I was a teenager, a young adult, I said, that's not really I don't get it, I don't understand it, and it felt a bit hypocritical, um, as well, and so I was seeking, and so but I just would go out and work in the world. I always loved adventures, and so I would, just work, and I moved down to California when I was a teenager, just for a short bit, and I met Kenny and Brian's dad. His
Mm,
name is Brian Jones, and, we met, and, we, hung out, and then we got married in 1977, and a year later, I had Kenny, my, first son, and, then I had Brian, 2 years later, and so, had 2 young boys, which I feel very, very blessed with, and then, Brian and I, divorced.
mm,
It just I wasn't it just I was trying to figure out where is life going here,
mhm.
and it felt like we were just going out and enjoying life, but there really wasn't purpose.
Yeah.
And the divorce, was really difficult. I was the first one in my family to get a divorce, so I was the black sheep of the family.
Mhm.
And trying to figure it out on my own, um, I really didn't. It was basically trial and error with life.
Yeah.
And, it just over the years, I, decided to, get my four-year accounting degree, and then, I was working in corporate America at the time, and then I decided to get my MBA, and then I made the decision, "No, I'm not gonna get a PhD in finance, that's not where I wanna go."
Mhm.
And, but I did want to venture out on my own. When I was in my early 30s, I owned a bakery deli, for a couple of years, which was really hard work, but I loved it. So I've owned a business, before,
Mhm.
and I'm very entrepreneurial because my father was very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And, and then I ended up closing the restaurant and then going to do all those things, working in corporate America, getting my degrees, And then I decided, I want to venture out on my own. I started financial mapping, which was about supporting small business owners and investors, helping them create profit and loss projections and cash flow projections for investments that they wanted
Mhm.
to invest in or for their business to get loans. And then my husband, one thing that he said to me is, "Well, when are you going to get a real job?" And I looked at him and I said, "What do you mean a real job? I'm working. It's
Yeah.
just not seeing the income that you're used to seeing, and that's going to take time to build up." So I decided just to put my resume out there, and I ended up um, a company found me, and they were growing from 19 million to 33 million.
Wow.
And so we sat down, we interviewed each other, and so I ended up supporting this company. And for 8 months, I was working on building a team. So that was from April of 2008. And then in December of 2008, um, on December 20th, 2008, myself and my family were notified that my son, Kenny, died by suicide, and a complete shock.
Mhm.
It was just how it all came together that day on the 20th, which ended up being a Saturday. We were out, my husband and I were out shopping. My other son, Brian, was down at his business, which he just opened in February of 2008.
Mhm.
It was snowing here. And Brian asked me to pick him up in the morning to take him because his car didn't drive in the snow. So I
Yeah.
said, okay. So I just let him know we were going to go out shopping, and I would let him know when we're back and we'll pick him up. So it was around 2 o'clock, and I just called him. I said, "Hey, Bri, we're just getting home. We're going to unload the truck, and then we'll be right down to pick you up." Not even 10 seconds later, I got a call back from Brian saying, "Hey, Mom, the police are here asking for you." And I'm going, "Oh my gosh." I mean, I literally thought, "Am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong?"
Right? Is this fraud? Is this SWAT now? Like, what did we get into? Yeah.
And so, I said, "Okay, well, we'll just come right down."
Mhm.
And so Brian's business was a gym, a 24/7 gym. So what we did is we just walked in the door and went in the office, and I said, "Well, Brian, where's the police officer?" "Oh, he's out there." I said, "Okay." So he saw that we came in, and he ended up coming in and closing the doors. And I looked at him really strangely. I'm going, "What's going on here?" Because everyone's going to hear no matter whether you close the doors or not, because it's an open
Mm.
ceiling.
Yeah.
Anyway, he came up to me and he just said, "Are you Debbie Rosenfelt?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Do you have a son by the name of Ken Jones?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And then he said, "Does he live at 5433 North Pierce Lane in Prescott Valley, Arizona?" And I said, "Yes, he does." Still clueless, not having any idea. And then he looked at me and he said, "I'm so sorry, but your son died by suicide."
Mm.
And I looked at him really strangely and I said, "How would you know?" And the reason I asked that was he was here in Edmonds. Kenny was in Arizona. So how was he going to know? And I
Mhm.
literally asked him that like 2 or 3 times because I was in complete shock. My husband in shock. Brian was in shock. I mean, everybody in the room was in shock. And he said, "Well, the Prescott Valley Police has notified us, and they asked us to come notify you."
Mm.
And we were just in such disbelief. And when that notification occurs, it just your mind just
Mhm.
goes elsewhere, goes everywhere. And he says, "Well, what we can do is we can go up to the house and we will call the Prescott Valley Police so you can talk to them."
Mhm.
And so that's what we did. We came up here to the house, and I gave him my phone. He dialed the number, and so I talked to the police officer, the detective, and he explained what they found and how he was found, and it was outside of his home.
Mm.
And actually, someone was walking by the house to pick her son up from an overnight stay, and it was like 8:30 in the morning. So, and this was like 2:00, 2:30 in the afternoon that we just found out.
Right.
So we were just in complete disarray. And so the gentleman said, well, you can call the medical examiner's office and, they'll be able to help you. And so I did that. And they said, well, you're going to need to contact a funeral home. And I'm going, how do we do that? I don't live there.
Yeah.
And he said, well, or she said, well, you will have to find a place. We cannot give any recommendations because that's not what we do.
Mm.
And so, I went on the web looking for, places, and I found a place called Wakefield Funeral Home. They were very kind, very thoughtful people. It was snowing here, and I'm talking heavy snow, not
Right.
light snow.
Yeah.
And it was literally a snowstorm that came in 2020 and 2008. So once we got that handled, we're just trying to process what's going on. Well, we were very blessed to have a couple of letters from Kenny. And back then, it was MySpace. So he shared with us what he posted on MySpace, but it was kept private.
Mm.
And sharing with us how he was feeling. He, questioned. He said, "It's not that I don't feel loved, or that I have wonderful family and I've got a lot of friends, but it's just like something's missing. Like he's
Mhm.
checked off all the boxes and did everything in life. I mean, he planned his life at 16.
Yeah.
Like, he went into the Air Force and he says, I'm gonna go to the Air Force and I'm gonna get the GI Bill so it helps me with school. The whole thing is when he was growing up, when he was born, his great-grandfather socked $10,000 away for him,
Oh.
actually for both boys,
Yeah.
to invest in for their college. So he had his college paid for, but he says, "No, mom, that's gonna really help me." I said, "Great, Ken." I mean, he
Mhm.
was very independent. He knew what he wanted for himself. And and he, was in the Air Force for 4.5 years. He ended up being in Iraq when 9/11 occurred.
Wow.
And they put in a stop loss at that time, so he couldn't get out until May of 2002. He decided to go to Embry-Riddle School, which is a university, to get his aeronautical science degree. That's the reason he moved to Prescott Valley, Arizona.
Mm.
So he bought his own home at 21.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was driven. He knew what he wanted, but there were
Yeah.
certain things that were happening, or that were not happening, such as he's also working on getting his pilot's license.
Yeah.
And there was a specific check ride that he could not pass. And that's the one where it's instruments only. So they blind your vision,
Yeah.
and then but you fly by. And he couldn't pass that for whatever reason. And that really got him down, which
Mm.
made him believe that he wasn't going to be able to be a pilot.
Right.
So there were things that were occurring, happening behind the scenes that I was unaware of. A lot of people were unaware of,
Yeah.
and it really impacted him. So, the letters were helpful, but it didn't that we were still in shock. And
Mhm.
even though he even said in the letter, because I recently have read it, and it brings back all those feelings that I felt back in 2008. But
Mhm.
he says, if you ever question anything, come back to this letter and it will tell you.
Wow.
He was
Wow.
seeking transcendence. He was seeking purpose. Very deep individual. Um, and so is his brother, Brian. But it's just like he didn't see the purpose in just checking off the boxes, which I totally get.
Yeah.
Nor do I. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like when I went 8 days after I went back to work, as I was walking out to my car, I said, "There's got to be more to life than this."
Mhm. And isn't that the million, billion, trillion priceless question, right?
Yeah,
Like, is
yeah,
there more to this? Is this worth it? Does it get better? Like, that's always the big questions that we're diving into. And, I have journeyed through suicide on my own story and my experience. I've worked with hundreds, thousands of people working through either their journey of suicide or grief of loss of suicide.
yeah.
And what I have noticed through the journey is exactly like you're sharing, is sometimes there isn't anything else that they're going to be able to find to fix that, because there is something, maybe sometimes, that they're just not willing to kind of maybe explain. Maybe there was something that happened in his tour and his depart. Obviously the stress of the school. There's so many other things that maybe we won't be able to fully dive into, but that's where I always found that there's something that they're not able to control, and that is the one thing that they're able to control, is knowing that they're not able to be here anymore.
That was one of my biggest lessons.
Mm,
And Kenny very much, well, that decision he took, that he made, took control.
yeah.
But one other thing that I do know, that I do believe that played a factor in it, Kenny was gay,
Mhm.
and he came out to me in May of 2002 when he got out of the Air Force, which
Right.
I already knew before he told me. And, but he said, one of the things he said, he looked at me and he said, "Well, how did you know?" I said, "I just know, Brian or
A
Kenny.
mama
I
knows.
just." Well, it's like he brought a friend over, that they came over here to stay, and he took such great care of him, and they were
Mm,
just like, I could just tell. Anyway, the one thing that Kenny did share with me, first he asked if I was mad, and I said, "No. Why would I be mad?" I said, Since you were a baby, I've told you guys I will love you no matter what."
mhm,
And so he just said, "Mom, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy." So
yeah,
he was struggling with it. And I did ask him, I said, "Ken, when did you know? When
mhm,
did you find out or figure it out?" He says, "Mom, I was 5 years old and I was chasing little boys in the playground rather than little girls."
right,
So he had the awareness then, but
mhm,
you know how our world is, our society is
yeah,
very prejudiced. They talk poorly about people
mm,
no matter who you are.
yes,
And and I know he was trying to find a partner, right? People try to
mhm,
connect just to have that deep relationship
yeah,
because Kenny was really deep. And I truly believe that that was part of it because he even said, living in Prescott Valley, he was very isolated,
yeah,
and he, had friends down in Phoenix, and he even questioned, "I wonder if I should be down in Phoenix,"
mm,
and one thing I learned, something you and I have talked about, is
yeah,
human design. And I, looked at Kenny's chart, and one thing, he's a triple split, which means in human design language, he needs to be around groups of people. And
mhm,
not that he has to be doing anything, he just needs to be around that energy.
yeah,
So he is supported. So learning that, I know this now. I certainly didn't know that back then,
yeah,
but I would have loved to have been able to support him or help him in any way. But I'm also mom. Mom. Our kids are not necessarily going to tell us everything, right?
no,
And he was, well, when he died, he was 30.
okay,
So, and we have a different dynamic.
yeah,
Parents, right? Moms, dads have
yeah,
a different dynamic with their kids. So we're supposed to not know anything, even though we do.
yeah.
um, but it, yeah. So,
What Before we touch into the human map design, because it's gonna go on another tangent, is that I really want to give that space to you. And like, how did you process, like, knowing that eventually it did lead to human map design, but what did you do after, like, 8 days after saying you're going in and out of that office and saying, "What is this all for?" Right?
Yeah.
What did you do to find your home? How did Brian then cope with everything? Knowing that, is he gonna outlive moments and memories and worry about overachieving what Kenny did, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, quite honestly, it was trial and error. It
Mhm.
really was. And what I did know, number one, is I could not run from the feelings
Okay.
because I've been through a divorce. I ran, it didn't serve.
Mm.
And what we resist continues to persist.
Yeah.
And I knew I could not run from my feelings, from feeling grief. So I literally had to allow myself to feel it. But I had, excuse me, I had a routine every morning where I'd get up at 5 in the morning,
Mhm.
take my vitamins, go to the gym, work out with a trainer. That was my morning routine. Come home, take a shower. So when a few days had settled,
Yeah.
I needed to get back to my routine because that was the only thing I could count on.
Mm.
Talked about control earlier.
Yeah.
This was my ultimate lesson is we do not have control, but I can have control of how I take care of me.
Mhm.
So I changed my hours. I only was working 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and I was only going in now from 10 to 4, which
Okay.
was a huge shift because I would go in from 8, sometimes stay till 7 at night, 8 at
Yeah.
night, and
Yeah.
I would be working 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So life totally shifted. I had to learn how to create a new normal.
Right.
Went, got through the services, got through having to go down to his home in Prescott Valley, pack it up. We brought a group of people, the family,
Mhm.
put it in a U-Haul, had to drive home. Where are we going to put it? Well, my dad, allowed me to keep it in his garage for 3 months so I could go through it.
Mhm.
And then I started, I was reading books, so I'd spend 1 to 2 hours every morning sitting down, reading, journaling, crying, whatever I needed to do for me,
Yeah.
which helped prepare me to go out into the world.
Yeah.
And I needed to go out into the world because to get my mind off of feeling the grief all the time.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
like a diversion,
Mhm.
but it
Mhm.
wasn't going to go away. I was still processing. I mean, there was times that I was in my office crying. I just closed the door
Yeah.
and did what I could do. My mind is mush.
Yeah.
You know how out in corporate America they give you 3 days, or back then it was 3 days for bereavement. I said, "Who makes up those rules?"
I was like, that's constipation you can't even pass in 3 days. Like, never mind loss. Like, that's
Yeah,
insanity.
yeah, yeah. And so it's like there needs to be a change here. But I mean, I
Mhm.
had a lot of vacation, excuse me, and and the owner was very gracious.
Good.
So, but, over the time, I mean, and then I was having to travel down to San Diego once a month, so traveling, getting out, getting away, that was
Mhm.
helpful too, just to get me out of my environment.
Yeah.
So, and then I started, saying, "Okay, well, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go into, coaches training," because I was already coaching small business owners and
Okay.
investors.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Okay, I'm gonna get certified." I saw
Mhm.
purpose in that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to help people in other ways. And then I dove into a one-year long leadership program, and then I was just started reading books, and I worked with a grief counselor, I worked with different coaches.
Mhm.
The Coaches Training Institute, that was pretty powerful because it allowed me to process my grief in a different way, but it
Wow.
was through coaching, people just asking questions.
Yeah.
But that's such deep work.
Mm.
And then in 2022, So, I mean, different things. I mean, even in 2016, 2017, I had 5 family members die within a 7-month period, and I thought I already had been through the worst of the worst, and that's what I felt, and I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I'll be able to get through this, okay." Well, there's this thing called grief stacking, and
Mhm.
when you have loss after loss after loss, your body starts shutting down.
1000%.
And it felt the same way when after, Kenny died, because there's times my body would literally shut down. I'm going, "Oh, I think I need some help." And so I reached out to, my pastor, and he gave me a name of a woman, and I just reached out to her, and just that call alone really supported.
Mm.
I mean, my it said to my body, "Okay, we're gonna be okay here, but we're gonna get some help."
Yeah.
So, it's just doing the work, and then,
Mhm.
like, I went through certification with the grief recovery method to
Yeah.
help other people with grief, but that provides more structure, and
Mhm.
there's some people prefer the structure over therapy,
Yeah.
and, they just that's it serves them that way.
Mhm.
And then in 2018, and this is all a God thing, um, my neighbor's wife died unexpectedly on a Sunday morning, and, I rushed over there when I heard his scream, and what I learned about where we live here in the Edmonds area, Snohomish County, is when someone dies unexpectedly, a chaplain will come with the police and fire department,
Okay.
and I never had that experience, and I'm going, "I would have loved to have had a chaplain when they came to me and told
Mhm.
me that, Kenny had died."
Yeah.
But I learned what a chaplain does, and basically they just, are there to be there in a moment,
Yeah.
not to fix anything, but just to create a safe container, help with, like, calling a family member.
Mm.
So, I was there, and I just wanted to make sure, number 1, he got some water, he got some
Yeah.
food. They
Yeah.
asked me, "Well, who are you?" I said, "I'm just a neighbor, but I've been through something like this."
Yes.
So I stayed with the chaplain and police officer as the police officer was doing his investigation.
Yeah.
And so I helped Eric. I called a sister for him,
Mm.
and I talked to Dale, who was the chaplain at the time. We exchanged phone numbers. You know, Dale asked Eric if it was okay if we pray with them, and Eric said, "Yes, I would love that." I'm going,
Mm.
"Wow, I get to pray with my neighbor, something we don't normally do."
Yeah.
And I knew it was time to go home when the medical examiner came and
Yeah.
Eric's family came.
Yeah.
And as I was walking down the stairs, I just looked up to the sky and I said, "Gee, I wonder what it takes to become a chaplain."
Oh.
And so I connected again with Dale and started the journey of becoming a community chaplain with South County Fire, which is a nonprofit, or excuse me, our fire department, but also Support 7, which is a
Okay.
nonprofit
Oh.
that works with law enforcement and fire on the worst day of somebody's life.
Mm.
And so I've been a chaplain. I was a chaplain. Well, I still am, but I'm no longer serving as with fire,
Yeah.
because it got to be a bit much. But,
Mhm.
I retired in 2023
Wow.
from
Wow.
that. But a lot of beautiful experience,
Yeah.
and great experience, but also to be able to serve the community in that way. Very meaningful.
Well, I
Very
think that brings I know some people might not fully understand this concept until you process and you've been through it. It's sometimes better for you to go through another experience. Like a lot of people are like, well, why do you deal with abuse victims or deal with narcissistic partners? Like, doesn't that trigger you? It gives you almost more of your autonomy and your value to actually have tools now to know that you have been able to react and respond in a way that you might have wished or didn't have the space to be in when it's such the first initial reaction and impact
yeah,
that I think that's why I think there's a big benefit towards it on just being able to be in that, not necessarily that you're pawning off or vulturing over somebody else's loss. You're literally holding that space and being able to witness and just bringing a better medicine to that versus it just
exactly.
being just kind of everybody fending on their own, right? And then us all talking in grief circles about how bad our first experience was, right? So
Yeah.
that's really powerful that you felt called to move with that journey, not just sit stagnant and a bystander on it. So wow.
I felt very honored, but also I know I was being led by God,
Mhm.
the Holy Spirit, and really important for me to listen to that.
Yeah.
And I even like it was like the last 6 months of 2022 were really difficult calls because after COVID, the calls increased. A
Yeah.
lot of drug overdoses.
Yeah.
I served 2 to 3 different baby deaths, and then on Christmas Eve, there was I had 2 deaths from drug overdoses, and the thing is it wasn't like they took it on purpose, it's more of a drug poisoning,
Uh
and then there was a fatality from a fire on Christmas Eve,
yeah.
and I said, I think I need a break. And so
Yeah.
I talked
Yeah.
to the executive director, and 2023 was a year of all about self-care
Mhm.
because I was definitely experiencing grief
Yeah.
from all the loss just
Mhm.
because I'm there to serve, and I do.
Yeah.
But when we go home after the call, you're processing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're processing every single thing that went on, and
Mhm.
it's not that I took it in internally, but I noticed my body was taking it in,
Yeah.
and I it got to the point where I was dreading Saturdays to
Mm.
come.
Yeah.
So, that's a good sign to say, "Hmm, I think you do need a break."
Yeah, space for you and listening to your body, and I think that's where social workers, doctors, nurses, palliative care, lawyers, RCMP, all of these layers, fire department, you are all in that same boat. And that's why
Yes,
that burnout and teachers, we're not like there's thousands of other jobs and, inquiries for this, but your burnout can be gentle or it can be very severe, and that's where it's a dangerous part in this process of being a human. You got to
yeah,
be cautious of making sure you are a lifeguard, and so you
yeah,
use your tools before you start putting your body into somebody else's environment or drowning
yeah,
situation, because you will not make it out. And that's tough as a supporter, because you think you're not doing good enough, or you're not strong enough like you once were, or you've witnessed so much of it constantly repeating. It is tough. And I think that's where a lot of us don't give ourselves some grace to
mhm,
knowing that you were there. If you didn't choose that job, you would have never been there. So count
right,
on how many people you've been helping and
yeah,
processing and holding space
yeah.
with, and have the acknowledgement, gratitude for what you did serve, and be a part of that gratitude versus beating yourself up all the time, right?
Absolutely, and I have to share, so everybody hears this as well, I was feeling guilty because I
Yeah.
kept on saying, What's going on? Why I was able to do it before, why can't I do it now?"
Mm.
And my executive director, Shannon, she just says, "Deb, we all need our breaks,
Yeah.
and maybe God's done with you. Maybe he's done with you in this area."
Yeah.
And I thought, "Wow, I never thought of it that way." But it's like he gave me 5 years,
Yeah.
and it was beautiful.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
and 5 is always that transformation number. It's a big moving kind of energy for that. So, yeah, don't ever, if any of you are listening, especially, I say social workers because you witness so much hard
Mhm.
work
Yes.
and devastation that way. And I know there's a lot of other careers, but I feel called to say social work at this time,
Yeah.
that when you are supporting a community and you just see a lot of harm, especially
Mhm.
like you said through past COVID, like I I had to take a moment in my own
Mhm.
self,
Mhm.
because I was so triggered knowing that there are little kids in homes that aren't
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
Knowing that if I was a child at that time in our household when I was that age,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be truly alive today. And that
Yeah.
that was a hard kind of reality,
Yeah.
knowing what can we start doing on this outside view to bring support. And that's why throughout my career, I have been really working on what are we actually here for? Is
Yeah.
it the one-on-one sessions? Is it big retreats? Is it this? Is it that? And I really appreciate you sharing your story that way, because a lot of people are wondering, how do we support and serve our community the best that we can at these times like this,
Yeah.
but keep care
Yeah.
of ourselves?
Exactly. And that's the key right there.
Hmm.
We cannot serve another until we serve ourselves.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what I've learned through this whole process, this last 16 years.
Yeah.
It's all about self care because I did it for everybody else.
Hmm.
And we've talked briefly a bit about human design, but on my journey, and I'm working on becoming certified, but on my journey, I'm a manifester, an initiator. I grew up with a family of generators and one manifesting generator.
Mm.
So I understand that I was being conditioned in a way that was not my energy.
Yeah.
And if we can start looking at ourselves and our bodies as energy, it's a whole different world. We stop judging, we stop pointing fingers because energy is energy. We
Mm.
cannot make it up. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But when we can start honoring ourselves, it's also honoring another.
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, leading all up to that, when and how did you stumble or be upon human map design? How did that
Yeah.
enter
Human
your
design. Yeah.
space?
Well, back in 2012, I actually met a gal, and I can't remember if I had a reading back then. Her name was Chris Porcheska, and I just saw it popping up places, and I thought I need to check that out again.
Mhm.
So I had a reading in December of 2019, and and then with the pandemic hitting,
Yeah.
I was seeing more and more, and so I decided to take a class through this gal who made it simple and
Mm.
very practical.
Wow.
Because we all have our lingo, right? Well,
Mhm.
lingo doesn't serve us unless we know the lingo. And so what she did, she just taught it in a very practical way to help us understand. And then I took that class and then I said, okay, I'm gonna um, I'm gonna get certified in BG5
Yeah.
because they also use simple language, day-to-day language.
Mhm.
It's just like the same thing with astrology. It's like I hear the words, but I want to understand how to apply it or how I'm supposed to. What is my energy?
Yeah.
And so over this, so I just dove in and I've been taking a class every quarter. Um, this last fall, I took a cycles class.
Yeah.
And right now I'm in the middle of taking, you've heard about the variable. Well, I'm
Mhm.
in my fourth class and it's all going to be about motivation. Um, and so, but what it has done for me is it has totally shifted my world to understand myself at a deeper level, to understand my husband
Yeah.
and my son Brian and
Mhm.
my friends and my family. I mean, when I learned that they're all generators and my mom's a manifesting generator, I'm going, oh my gosh, I get it. I get why I felt like I was being controlled
Yeah.
because I'm not here to be controlled.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. And now even this last year, I've been also studying astrology at a deeper level, not to use it to predict, but just to understand my own energy and to
Right.
help people, individuals, to understand their own energy of how they are to naturally operate and to listen to their
Mhm.
bodies.
Well, and all of those that have not either heard through the journey so far, what is human map design? My redneck explanation, because I journeyed and witnessed human map when I was 2020 or 2014, 2015, for sure by 2015.
Mhm.
I explained it as it's like a Chevy manual in your
Yeah.
glove box that tells you everything about that truck. So this
Yeah.
manual, as a human map design, tells you everything about you. It's a map of who you are. And the reason why it's not just like Ooga Booga or different things like that is because it's based with your date of birth, your
Yeah.
location, your time, and everything about you is in this map.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So you can't erase it, you can't change it, you can't manipulate it. The
Yes.
only way that's ever going to change is you found out you were born a different day or, a different hour.
Different time. Yes.
Yeah. But other than that, it literally is explaining how you make decisions. How do you receive information? How do you work with your emotions? So when I found out that I'm a projector
Mhm.
and I am a person who is a solar plexer decision
Yes.
maker,
Yes.
that was a huge thing for me because I always thought I needed to make decisions like this because I'm the
Right.
oldest. We're going to
Yes.
figure this out. We're entrepreneurs. We're farmers. You got to think on your feet, blah, 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 blah. When I gave myself the grace to understand and work through what we call as surfing, that
Yes.
emotion versus the sacral decision makers, the
Yes.
mm-hmm-ers, mm-hmm, you'll hear me say and do that because I've trained my sacral to really understand,
Yeah.
but it's because I've understood my map. Now I'm able to process those functions. But that changed everything. And for
Yes.
me, my belief and the way I need to function is by invitation. So instead of
Yes.
me being the bossy Betty, going out to everybody else and telling them that's what I want, didn't work out very well. I'll tell you, in the dating area, that sucked a lot. They always said I had wedding bells in my eyes and I was not the girlfriend material, I was wife material. That's when I realized so much later on in my life. It made sense. So, how would you describe it to somebody who never really heard of human map then, Debbie?
Yeah. Well, I basically would say the same thing. It's just this is it is a map. It's a map of your energy,
Mm-hmm.
but it also tells you how you are to naturally operate. So when you are what they call your not self, another definition for not self is when you're resisting something
Mm-hmm.
that is supposed to naturally work for you. That is just telling you you're just off track. That's all. There's nothing wrong with you, just
Yeah.
off track. But what this information does is it takes away the judgment, making somebody wrong. It's
Mm-hmm.
just saying, this is how I operate. I too am an emotional manifester. So that means my solar plexus is defined. And there's a lot of wisdom
Mm-hmm.
that I have. And it's for me to listen to that, but also to listen. Like, there's lots of times that I would feel something and I'd say, something's wrong.
Mm.
Something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong. Well, that was me just identifying the energy that I was feeling, and I didn't know how to explain it or describe it. But what I've learned is I don't need to know. It's just energy. I need to go take a nap,
Yeah.
or I need to go take a walk in Mother Nature.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a map for parents today, for their kids who are born today, that
Yeah.
will help them understand their children at a deeper level of when, for example, they're a projector, that they need to be invited, or they're a manifester, initiator. There's someone that needs to be empowered, not controlled, but empowered to learn on themselves. Our profile lines. I'm a 3-5. That means I live from trial and error, and I'm also a messenger. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to experience it first. And it is trial. When I learned there were no mistakes, I'm going, I felt so free. I
Right?
felt freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes away shame and guilt as well.
Yeah.
Because that just comes from the outside world,
Mhm.
if you will, or people who want to make you wrong. I call that the patriarchy,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we've all been trained and conditioned by the past.
Yeah.
We are not here to live the past. We are here to live the present, the now. And when we can deeply learn to understand ourselves at a deeper level, you can be living in heaven.
Mhm. And that's where when I found out about human map design, I was like, call the president, call the queen.
Yeah.
Like, this
Yes,
shit's got to be
yes,
in the education systems. Before I hire
yes.
your ass, I am fucking finding out what is your human map design.
Yep.
Like this is not going to continue to be hoodwinked by this other, experience. Like, I want Carfax about you. Like, I want to understand how this works, right?
Yes, yes.
So,
Beautifully
yeah.
said. I love that.
But yeah, I think that's just it's such the truth to this beautiful tool that, it doesn't have to get complicated, but a lot of people, when we hear sometimes modalities and, like you said, astrology and these different practices, we we sometimes just, you know, I want to say almost like make up our own judgment or rejection so quickly for us figuring out how easy we are to be known of
Yes,
ourselves, because the
yes,
world's like, travel the world, discover your taste, be something unique, but don't step the line, don't question why, be in this
right.
box, right? So it's
Yes,
just such a contradictory kind of adventure, if
yes,
you could
yes.
put it that way. And I think that's why it was such a light bulb for me, because 'cause I'm very analytical, and that's what cracked me open. Literally, it's gonna be 10 years in March being my original Shanice's Niches, that at that at that flower shop cafe, I met Leanne Wolf, and I give all credit to her.
You know Leanne? Oh
I
my
do.
gosh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
That is who has gifted me the journey into expanding, and since you know her, I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you a little bit of a story of her. So, I'm poor, I left the oil patch, I'm in a shitty relationship, and I finally book this reading with her. And at that time, that was pricey. That was like, holy, that's 100 and I think it was like $87 or 70 some dollars for 2 hours or so. And so I put it together. I go for my session. And at this time, I watched her come to the cafe and other presentations for 25 bucks. She would print out your sheet, your map, tell you about the different themes and the ideas of that, and then that was it. And that was what got me interested. So I finally bit the bill, went for a session. So there I am. I still have the recording till this day. I sat there for an hour, and I can't remember if it was an hour and a half the session was or 2 hours, but anyways, all I left her in the whole goddamn session was 3 sentences worth about what she wanted to share, and I ate up that whole session telling her about my childhood and my past and this and that, and she's like, "Mhm, mhm, mhm, uh-huh, mhm, uh-huh." And then by the end of it, she's like, when are you gonna fucking say enough is enough?
Yeah.
When are you gonna, like, do you realize you're giving your power to everything else besides you?
Mm.
And I just stopped. Like, I never had anybody in my entire life besides my own family tell
Yeah,
me, "What the fuck is your problem?" Right?
yeah.
And she gifted me such a blessing and a balance
Yes.
to knowing what that fully means at this point in my life,
Mhm. Mhm.
that wake up,
Yeah.
because it was what my projector, right, like
Yes.
hitting it, the old
Yes.
school projectors,
Yes.
changing the light bulb or hitting it to finally focus,
Yeah.
to understand, like, this all was in the past, this all was a part of the journey, And so I literally paid for a 3 sentence, diagram and dive in, and then the rest I had to work on journeying and process on
Yeah.
how I was going to start to realize what this meant to me. And
Yeah.
she is a gift. She is a soul
Yes.
that is such an honor to know. And she did study with Ra. She did go through those
Yeah.
journeys and stuff like that. And it was so beautiful because she literally left ATB Financial, it's a banking industry, to walk away from that and really pursue human map design way before it was even thought
Yeah.
of. So
Yeah.
that was such a gift to know that I was able to witness and experience that. So that was kind of our journey together on
Well,
the human map
it's
design.
so beautiful. Thanks for sharing that with me. Well, Chris and Leanne worked together
Oh,
at
wow.
BG5. Yeah.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
cool.
But it's very I see freedom. I've experienced freedom
Yeah.
just from this work alone.
Mhm.
And you just have to be willing to do the work. But when you and I talked about this when we first spoke,
Yep.
taking radical responsibility for ourselves,
Yes.
being
Yes.
accountable to
Yep.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, when I hear your story and when you talk about, Kenny that way of like, if I knew I would be able to show him like he wasn't alone and all these
Yeah.
different things, that is tough. But look at the beauty, and we talked about this in our little chat
Yeah.
as well, is like, look at the medicine that Kenny is now gifting all
Yes.
of us because
Yes.
you were not willing to sit aside. You were not willing to be a victim, fully immersed in your own pain and your suffering. And you have now advocated for his purpose and life to
Yes.
continue and vibrate so beautifully forward. So thank you
Yeah.
for that absolute dedication as a mom.
I truly believe that he and I had a soul contract.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, we can't make this stuff up.
No.
And just how everything has just come about. And there's such beauty. I mean, you know, they, in the Bible or God says, they make something new out of something
Mm.
that isn't, you
Mhm.
know, and it's just like, and when you hear that sentence or that Bible verse, you're going, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that. But
Yeah.
I also want people to hear that it's been 16 years.
Yeah.
And the first 5 years, I was raw. It
Yeah.
was raw. It was hard. But I chose to do it differently
Mhm.
because I knew I couldn't run. And there's so many people that run
Yep.
or they're, you know, drugs, alcohol,
Yeah.
gambling, retail
Yeah.
therapy. That's not going to solve it. And you can come out on the other side. And it's like you never get over it. Sometimes people unfortunately say the wrong things. Well, are you feeling better? And
Right.
I come back and say, feeling better from what? And I catch them because people have this misnomer, this notion that we're going to be better after a certain time. No, when you have had a major loss, a tragedy, a sudden loss, or a crisis, even, don't ever ask if you're feeling better. It's like, so just check in with them. How are you doing? What's going on?
And that's where when I took a grievance course, and it was put on by a funeral home, and we have good family friends that work in a funeral home and stuff like that too, so I've had some deep conversations with them. And when I took this course for grief support and grief awareness, it was so interesting to kind of process that there's 15 stages in grief. And that is not linear, it's
Right.
not cyclical, it is just
Exactly.
ribbles, right? My hair going in
It's
there.
like that. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And that just really gave me that humbleness and that just more of that compassion through it. And, like, yes, I might be a little bit more of like a beefier coach on being like, hey, what is really needing at this point? What is this support? Not because I'm trying to be mean or discompassionate. Sometimes you're just needing to get over that hurdle or that loop that you've just been constantly in rut with, to
Yeah.
just give you space to be that freedom, because
Yeah.
sometimes that is all you need. You just need an advocate to say it's safe for you to have sunlight again. It's safe for you to
Yes.
celebrate Christmases and
Yes.
their birthdays, and have conversations with them. Like, don't get caught up in societal ways of grieving, putting the flowers, and there's now a gravestone to just keep visiting, maybe once a year if you're lucky or in the area, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Mexican culture, that is like, that's a festival of a being of with them that day.
Yeah.
Like, that
Yeah.
ain't just something you walk away from. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody has their traditions. Different
Hmm.
cultures have their traditions of how they honor
Yeah.
their loved ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do for these journeys? Like, would you celebrate Kenny's birthday? Would you write him a letter? What would you do just for you in that grieving process?
So when the 20th comes
Mhm.
of December, I just that's my day,
Okay.
and I take care of me. And what's interesting, though, I've noticed, and it's changed each year. So like the first 5 years, it was like the whole month of December, I would just shut down.
Yeah.
But it's gotten now down to December 17th. And like this last December 17th, I was just going, wow, I feel so depressed. What's going on?
Mm.
And my son Brian came to me and he said, Mom, I just want to check in. How are you doing? I was going, and I looked at him and I said, Bri, I said, I feel like I'm feeling really depressed. Then I looked at the calendar.
Mm.
Oh, it's December 17th.
Yeah.
No wonder. Okay,
Mhm.
now it's all about self-care.
Yeah.
I don't really need to do anything.
Yeah.
So, this last year, I actually, scheduled myself. I learned about this new healing modality called the harmonic egg.
Yeah.
So I scheduled myself a session over, um, in the, Poles Bowl area. And
Okay.
so that was just a beautiful experience, but it's like, again, self-care.
Mhm.
So, yeah, when his birthday comes, we certainly honor him with his birthday. I've got, pictures of him around as well.
Mhm.
But and Brian and I have conversations about Kenny, but there's something if something comes up, I'm thinking of him, I'm going, "Okay, well, maybe his energy is around or
Mhm.
something,"
Mhm.
because I've read books that just because our physicality, our physical body
Yep.
dies, our energy is still around, energy is still alive. But something I'm actually working through right now is I have his clothes still
Okay.
that I haven't released, and I want to release them now.
Aw.
And so I've been working through that.
Yeah.
But just noticing how I am responding but I feel like I'm ready. It's
Yeah.
okay to let that part of him go.
Mhm.
Um, I have his yearbooks. I'm not gonna let those go yet
No.
because that's still I've got pictures of him and stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm noticing even at 16 years, and that's one thing I want people to realize that this can last for a long time. It could last
Mhm.
till the day you die, except you don't have to let it be your story. It's working it through, it's processing it through, being gentle, being kind, being compassionate,
Yeah.
giving yourself grace through
Yeah.
this whole process. And I I have never felt so grounded
Mm.
in my life and knowing I am on purpose. I know who I am here to serve
Yeah.
and just to love life. And it's taken a lot of work. I study every day,
Yeah.
every morning. This year, I've committed to studying Course in Miracles 365 days.
Wow.
And it's just to help me process life at a deeper level because that's what I want is that
Mhm.
depth. Don't
Yeah.
talk to me about the weather or the little stuff.
Yeah. It was so funny, just the other recordings that we recently did, it was the same thing. I am so done with that weather conversation and that bullshit, like, this is now where
Yes,
we are, so
yes,
no, and
yes,
thank you for that because, like, a lot of people, they wanna hear it maybe from people who have journeyed through it a bit more versus, like, their friends or families or, other podcasts or people telling them that this is what they should do or shouldn't do, right? Maybe it's just Mama Debbie. You needed to have that, just that subtle connection and that little nudge to have that. And,
yeah,
clothes, scents, those kinds of things are a little bit hard for people to journey
yes,
through.
yes, yes,
I I really have had such a gift that people really have taken either the uniform or their shirts and made blankets or
yeah.
pillows, right? And teddy
Quilts?
bears.
Yeah,
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 yeah. So that's something that is special. Like I have one sweater still from my Guido's closet. It is ragged and tagged to no bitter end.
yeah,
And I still hold on to that sweater
yeah,
because that is something that I will not get back until it turns into dust.
yeah.
That
Precious,
is
very
something.
precious.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
yeah,
precious. Yeah.
yeah.
And something that you just also spoke to, and you're so right on. There is no shoulds when it comes to processing grief or anything of that matter. You do it your way, but you
Mhm.
can certainly use a guide or a mentor. That's what I do is I serve and guide individuals, leaders through, but they do it based on what serves them, not
Yeah.
because I tell them to or
Mhm.
this is what you're supposed to do. It's all about allowing yourself
Yeah,
to grieve, allow
yeah.
yourself to process, allow yourself to feel whatever it is you're feeling.
Mhm. And that is the silent gift, if I
Yeah,
can put it that way, right?
yes,
Because it is a gift when you can just see them and embrace them and live their vitality through. That just makes the world such a
yeah,
magical place because honestly, I probably wouldn't meet half of you on this platform if it was
yeah,
all sugarcoat and a-okay.
yeah. That in itself is a fallacy, an
Yeah,
illusion. Yeah,
yeah. Like, it's so crazy to know that, because of Kenny, I get to meet his mom. I get
yeah,
to have that connection, and she gets to be a space in my home, right? Like, that is something is such a gift to have you here, Debbie. Like, that is where I hope so many more people realize our darkest moment sometimes is the lotus that
yes,
brings us out of the mud and
yeah,
brings us right in that long, 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 long stem, a beautiful bud that will open and bring peace to all.
absolutely. The gift he's given me is to lead a deeper life, a
Yeah.
life of depth, a life of purpose, a life of love, and just being able to experience life at the deep, dark depths of life, but to recognize that this is part of being here on earth. We
Mm,
are spiritual beings in human body, and we're here to experience it. And I think that's is not what's being spoken to when we can say, people, we're here because we chose to be here.
yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And you can choose whatever it is that you want to do, but just be aware and conscious
Mhm.
because awareness and consciousness is the currency of life.
Yeah. Ugh, it's priceless when you get to really understand and joyfully live your life.
Yeah, exactly. This has been fabulous. Thank you,
Oh,
Cheanise.
I never wanna go to bed after these things. Like, they are just so pure and so rejuvenating to the soul when you get to have true conversations again. And that's kinda what I wanted to wrap up is, like, what as a mom who has
Yeah.
experienced and journeyed, to the women or parents and men out there, how would you, now knowing human map design, knowing what you can offer in this next chapter, what is your biggest advice or process to help those in the thick of it, and then
Yeah.
those who had the loss now to process?
Yeah. So when you're in the raw, in the thick of it, just be in the raw and the thick of it. Just surrender to it. And surrender doesn't mean that you drop everything. You surrender to the feeling
Mhm.
and recognize the energy, and
Mhm.
you are being served. I can promise you everything. Your life will be good. Your
Mm.
life, everything will be okay. I can attest to that. And there are many, many, many dark days.
Mhm.
And also seek either an expert in who has experienced grief, or a grief counselor, someone you feel safe with.
Yeah.
And if you go to one and you don't feel comfortable, then that's not the person to be with.
Mhm.
Start recognizing how you feel energetically with the people you're around, and that will guide you. That will be your guide to start trusting yourself and believe in yourself, even through this really dark stuff.
Mhm.
And then, depending on your design, because we're not all the same, we are all energetically different. But when we can learn about our, if you will, natal planets, that's just telling you about your energy.
Mhm.
Same thing with human design, is telling you about your energy. And it's like with the projector, you have to wait for the invitation. Generators and manifesting generators are here to respond. I
Mhm.
am here to initiate. Nobody initiates me. I
Mhm.
initiate myself. And know that you don't have control. That was one of my most difficult lessons, but why would I want control? Because I
Yeah.
don't.
Mhm.
I don't want control. So it's just really honoring yourself, honoring everything, and you know, it's really easy to say, "Well, I wanna feel better." I would listen to the Hallmark Channel for
Mm.
those feel-good movies,
Yeah.
um, because my body just didn't resonate, with alcohol or drugs. But, mine is also food. I love food.
Okay.
But it's just recognize your behavior and do something that serves you, but it's not a coping mechanism
Mm.
that you turn to numb the pain, process the pain, allow
Yeah.
yourself, be with someone that you're safe with,
Mhm.
and allow yourself, because you'll grow. And we all are here to grow.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Love it. And I think that just puts the bow on what we have as
Yeah.
life. So
Yeah.
enjoy this as it is. Re-listen to this as often as possible as you need to, as just kind of hearing that guidance and that love, so you don't feel alone. And I'm just super excited and thrilled to know you will be a part of the human map design team,
Yes.
and, navigating us that are ready to expand and dive in deeper to it. And really, thank you. Thank you for being dedicated to
Thank
the
you, Cheanise.
cause.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Appreciate you.
So, Debbie, how do we find you? Are
Hmm.
you ready and out in the public, or is this still something kind of baking and rising as we're experiencing it?
No, I am out in the world, so, via my website, debbierosenfelt.com. I also have, a podcast that I started last year in 2024 called Elevated Embodiment,
Mm,
and it's 12 different podcasts with each person, So I shared my story in the first one, and then I have different guests sharing their story of how they navigated through their loss, with grace or not,
Mm,
and very powerful stories. And so my second season, I'm working on that right now, and that is all gonna be about self-care, of
mm,
how what does self-care look like after experiencing loss or a tragedy or a crisis?
yeah.
Because it's just not for because someone died. Anything our well, look how upset our world is right now. So
Mhm.
how can we take care of ourselves, because we have to take care of ourselves first before we can care for another. So,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah,
So exciting. And we will have you on the Niche Network. So all of your information is going to be up on our lovely website. And yeah, I am super excited to journey more with you. And maybe we
right.
have some workshops coming on out to explain and dive into it because
That'd
it
be so
is a
much fun.
core. That's a
Yeah,
core for us for sure. Because
yeah,
hell, if I can't figure you out, how are we going to keep doing this together? So
yeah,
we're going to work it
exactly.
all in this one step at a time and helping you know what is not your real self
Yeah,
on that
exactly.
journey. But
Yeah,
yes, thank you so much for today. It has been just an honor.
thank
And
you.
we are super excited to bring in what is going to be the next journey with us working together. So thank you, Debbie.
Thank you again, Shanice.
All right, everybody, take care. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this. Make sure that you like and subscribe and journey with us further on the niche network.com or on our YouTube. And thank you all for being a part of this. Take care.